the news segment. We got some updates, and I assume this is like the tweets that Jones has been sending out this week.
Yeah, it was Jones. He was tweeting at Stipe to sign the contract for UFC 282, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it ain't happening at UFC 282. Unless,
No.
I mean, I could, unless they pull out a miracle out of their ass. But that card's filled, and they're already promoting in Vegas and on tickets with Yuri and Glover, the main event. So I mean,
if they thought they were going to sign this fight, they wouldn't have put the tickets on sale.
Yeah, because
I don't know what the ticket. They would have upped. I don't
know what the prices are for right now, but yeah, they would have held off if it felt like it was. If it was like at 90% done, they would have held off because they could charge more, especially for the first Jon Jones fight in nearly 3 years. So
just pulling. I thought I was going to be able to pull up the tickets, but I can't.
Yeah, it's not like on Access.
Yeah, I got the. It just doesn't have the prices. I would have to go into it a little bit more, but yeah, because they sent out a press release on Friday or last week. Actually, it was the day after we recorded, and basically announcing the main event. And it's titled like Prochazka versus Teixeira 2. Now, I mean, they make changes and stuff, and they suppose they could, but the value in having a Jon Jones fight is the ticket sales because the pay-per-view money's locked in. So they're not gonna make a Jon Jones fight and not put the tickets on sale with him not on the card.
Yeah.
that would just be stupid.
Another thing that also is kind of telling to me, like if you go to the ESPN and their schedule of events, they have UFC 282 listed as UFC 282 Prochazka versus Teixeira 2, whereas UFC 283, which already has Moreno and Figueiredo 4 on there, but they don't have it like it doesn't say, it just says UFC 283. It doesn't say UFC 283 Figueiredo versus Moreno 4, which also screams like they're trying to make a bigger main event for that show too. So.
And that one's in Brazil. And this, I mean, Prochazka and Teixeira would have been a perfect main event for that card. Yeah. So the fact that they are putting that on 282 means they've either got something bigger or they're still working on it, but they needed a main event for this show, and because they wanted to make sure tickets went on sale. I mean, that's 6 weeks away now.
Yeah.
December 10th. So as you're listening to this, it's November 1st already. So that's not that far away.
Yep.
And also on UFC 282.
Go ahead, yeah.
Well, you tell me.
Yeah, Raul Rosas, the 17-year-old who got signed off the Contender Series. He's 18 now. Now he's making his UFC debut on that show against Jay Perrin.
Wow. And that they sent out the list of matches on the card on their press release, and he's not on there. So that was a very recent.
Yeah, that was made after the press release was sent out.
They have a lot of big fights. Chris Curtis on that card, Rosenstruck, Dalcha Lungiambula against Coach Edmond, Darren Till and Dricus Duplessis, Alexander Gustafsson and OSP, Robbie Lawler and Santiago Ponzinibbio, and of course Patty, the baddie fighting gritty veteran Jared Gordon, as they put it on the press release.
Bryce Mitchell against Ilya Topuria, which might be the best fight on that card.
And that's not even on their rundown.
Yeah, it's on the card though. So.
Yeah, I know. That's weird though, eh? Oh, you know what? They've got some. Yeah, no, they don't even mention that one. That's so weird. But
wasn't signed before the press release went out.
Gotcha. Why. Okay, all right. But yeah, a lot of big fights on that card. Let me get back to the notes here. Next, so what happened in the Paul Silva fight that happened on Saturday?
Well, yeah, I mean, we had Jake Paul against Anderson Silva this past weekend, and Jake Paul won decision. I don't think anybody's surprised about it. And I mean, Anderson Silva, as great as he is, 47 years old, and it was competitive from what I've heard. I didn't watch it, but the main stuff I wanted to talk about on that is, they're very clearly trying to build up Jake Paul against Nate Diaz, because there was several confrontations during the week between the Paul camp and the Diaz camp. So I guess we're going to end up getting that next year.
Maybe. That's going to draw.
that one might. That's
Yeah.
Jake. I feel like that's Jake Paul's only chance. I mean, we'll see how this one did. I mean, the crowd was sparse there.
Did you see my prediction?
No.
Because Dave Meltzer was asking for predictions, and I said 80,000. I, I mean,
Yeah.
I got kind of joked at about that, but I don't think I'm that far off.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
Because I think the Woodley fight did like 125.
Yeah. This also came on during like heavy college football competition.
Yep.
People are done with the Jake Paul thing. Like
Yeah.
he needs Nate Diaz more than Nate Diaz needs him.
You
And
said the crowd was sparse because they sold a lot of tickets, so I guess maybe a lot of people didn't show up, or maybe
I don't know.
scalpers
I
bought
saw
them or something.
scalpers bottom. I saw that.
Yeah.
I saw that arena. It looked maybe half full.
Okay. Yeah. No, because Dave Meltzer, when he reported on it, he said they sold a lot of tickets, but he didn't like talk about like he didn't see the fight, so he didn't talk about the crowd. He just said they sold a lot of tickets, or they did a good gate, I think is the way he put it. So it may be also that they charge a lot of money for the
They did a
tickets.
good gate. I know
Yeah.
that much.
Yeah.
So,
So
but
that could just be high ticket
yeah.
prices. You've got some GSP news. What's that?
Oh, he was part of the whole festivities this weekend with Jake Paul and Anderson Silva.
Oh, really?
But yeah, he said his UFC contract, it freezes or something whenever he retires or something. But anyway, it's over. So technically, he's a free agent, and he said never say never when it comes to a combat sports return. And he specifically said combat sports return, not MMA return. So
Well, clearly that's another one they could do.
or
Either
GSP Silva boxing.
okay. I was thinking more Paul and GSP, but
Well, they were talking. There's a lot of people talking about Silva and GSP in a boxing match.
well, they could do that and on the undercard of Paul Diaz, and then have the winners face each other. Or even just have that as a separate event.
Yeah,
Because I think GSP Silva in a boxing match would draw too.
I'm one of the biggest GSP fans in the world. There, he's my all-time favorite fighter. So I'll admit that. I don't want to see him compete again. I think he had just I mean it's I only want to see him fighting MMA again, and if he's not going to do that, I have no desire to see him fight again or
Fair
do
enough.
anything
Yeah, I
again.
don't
So
watch any of these gimmick fights anyway.
yeah,
So
I don't want to see him waste his time in gimmick fights. He doesn't need the money, and he was also somebody who was very talked very big about the brain and
mhm.
all that wanted to protect his brain. I don't want to see him do anything stupid.
I,
Gimmick
I
fight.
I mean I would want to see him fight again if they make the right fight, because he's still not that old. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
he's what, 36?
I mean, yeah. If you want to bring him back to fight Conor McGregor
Yeah,
or
something
something
like that. That'd
or
be
something
cool.
like that, or
Yeah.
or Leon Edwards, or
Yeah, you don't want to see him going against um
I'd
Izzy
even
or
I'd
anything.
even buy GSP against Colby Covington. I think that would be
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
yeah,
But yeah, I don't want to see him fight in the middleweight division again, because
yeah, no,
he took a lot of punishment against Bisping, even though he won.
yeah, he
And
just
Bisping was not even close to the top fighter
no.
in the division at the time. He just had won the title. Okay, what's going on in the bantamweight division? You got Aljamain Sterling, Henry Cejudo, Sean O'Malley. They're just trying to work all
Okay.
that out.
Yeah, there was already talk about doing Sterling and Cejudo in Australia at UFC 284, but Aljamain Sterling's talking about not wanting to fight till June or July at the earliest, and he's suggesting Cejudo fights O'Malley for title shot. I'm just going to say this much. I mean, Sterling took no damage in the Dillashaw fight. I don't know if he has any pre-existing injuries, but there's been a trend a lot lately of fighters who are willing to fight 3 or 4 times a year to get that title shot, but when they win the title, suddenly they only want to fight once or twice a year. This is why we have to appreciate guys
Carlos
like
Barza.
and Aljamain's starting to prove to be another one of those.
Yeah.
One of those, that remember how I said I was surprised that Islam wanted to fight Volkanovski so
Yeah.
soon, because I fully expected Islam to win the title, and we don't, here in October we don't hear from him again until May,
Yeah.
so there's just a lot of it. There's a lot of this going on with fighters not winning titles and not wanting to fight as much as they were. That's why you got to appreciate guys like Izzy and even Volkanovski, who's talking about being willing to fight, defend 2 titles at once. I mean, Figueiredo's another example of a guy who went from fighting 3-4 times a year to suddenly fighting once or twice once he got the title.
Yeah.
I mean, I know they like to hold off title fights for pay-per-views, and they're only running 12 pay-per-views a year. But also they've had to cancel pay-per-views because they don't have title fights because some of these fighters
Yep.
don't want to fight. I mean, even Usman's been on a 1 or 2 fight a year schedule. So
Yeah.
it's just like we need these champions more active, and I don't like this idea of Sterling, you know, openly saying I'm not coming back till June or July because like that holds up a division far more than a guy fighting with an injury like Dillashaw did. You know, Dillashaw was sitting there apologizing about how he didn't want to hold up the division, a champion fighting and then saying I'm taking 9 months off before I fight again, even though I'm not hurt. That holds up a division more than anything. We talk
Yeah.
about all this backlog at featherweight, man. And now we have a ton of backlog at bantamweight now, and you have a champ that wants to fight once a year. It's UFC needs to be telling these guys, champions, you still need to commit to 3 fights a year.
Yeah. Absolutely. Askar Askarov is gone from UFC.
Yeah,
That's surprising.
yeah, he was big flyweight contender he was coming off that loss to Kai Kara France, and he was supposed to fight Brandon Royval a couple weeks ago, but he was having trouble missing weight. He requested his release from the UFC for due to health issues. He's saying he's having health issues. I guess he too big to make flyweight, and he was trying to make flyweight and couldn't, and it caused a whole bunch of health issues. And UFC just requested, they granted his request. So he may be back sometime soon, but we won't be seeing him in the UFC for a little while, which is kind of a surprise because he was ranked third in the division. So
well, and he had the fight against Alex Perez as well that he pulled out of. So I assume is also similar issues. Hopefully he gets his stuff together, maybe comes back as a bantamweight or something. Although he seems a little small for bantamweight, but and then a bunch of other UFC cuts. Most of these names are people we thought would get cut, but you can tell some of the names.
Cuts or non-renewals of contracts, whatever.
Yeah,
however we want to call it. But Misha Sirkunov is probably the biggest name on the list.
Yeah,
He's been around for a while. Christoph Jocko is another one. Louis Koske, Nick Maximov, who's the training partner of the Diaz brothers, but he was in the UFC a little too early. Magomed Mustafayev, which is kind of that one's kind of a surprise, I think. Then you have Charlie Ontiveros, Jesse Ronson, Cameron Van Camp, and Darian Weeks, all low-level fighters who I don't know if any of them was actually won in the UFC. Maybe I think Weeks might have won one fight, but everybody else is winless. So nobody really unexpected.
2 Canadians on that list, and there's only like 14 Canadians on the roster. So
yeah, well,
now there's 12.
If you're Canadian, American, Brazilian, Japanese, Mexican, whatever,
you'll get a call again.
If you don't win, you ain't gonna keep a job. So
no, but if you keep fighting and you get wins on the regional scene, you'll get a call when they run your territory.
Yeah,
probably.
Yeah,
sure. And Jason Witt retired. It's not surprising given 4 knockouts in 2 years, but still too bad.
Lower level UFC fighter, 35 years old, but he fought a lot in the regional scene 2 and 4 in the UFC, kind of a guy. He was one of those like he fought so much on the regional scene, you kind of wonder if he was ever going to get a shot. And the pandemic gave a lot of guys like him their shot, and he got to have 6 UFC fights, and he got to have make his name. He had a really fun fight with Brian Barberena, earlier this year, but I think it was earlier this year or late last year, one of those two. But he announced his retirement today. So
that's too bad. 35 though, and probably when you're on the other side of 35 and you've had 4 knockouts in 2 years, that's probably a sign. And the last 2 were particularly brutal against Josh Quinlan and Philip Rowe. So good luck to him, and again, hopefully everything goes well for him and we don't see him in bare knuckle fighting down the road, which a lot of these guys tend to do. And close off the show, we got a few fight announcements. There's one big one and the rest are kind of in my opinion. I don't know what you think.
And, yeah, nothing really major this week. There was only, I think there was, Bellator and Ryzen announced those fights. So
Yeah.
four fights. I don't have them listed here, but it's all UFC stuff. And there's only like 7 fights. But UFC Fight Night on November 19th, light heavyweight fight, Ion Cutelaba against Kennedy and Chukwu. That might be pretty exciting. We talked about Rosas. Then fights next year, UFC Fight Night, January 14th, David Onama against Jarno Aarons. UFC 283 in Rio, Terrence McKinney against Ismail Bonfim. That's Bonfim's making his debut, and both Bonfim brothers are fighting on the show.
Oh,
But
right.
but Terrence McKinney is a tough first fight, and
Yeah.
Terrence McKinney has a ton of potential. Yeah, McKinney lost to Drew Dober, but Drew Dober is good, and McKinney took that fight on 10 days notice after he had just fought, and it was a huge step up. But Terrence McKinney is super talented, and
Yeah.
just a couple other fights. Tyson Pedro looks to have a gimme fight again in Australia, fighting the debuting fighter Zhang Mingyang, however you say that.
Zhang Mingyang.
Yeah, Zhang Mingyang. I think he's good, but Tyson Pedro is, ever since he came back, he's been in some, fights that are designed for him to win, and this is another one.
Yeah. Yeah, so that is the fight announcement. So yeah, we're starting to book the first couple months of 2023. Can't believe we're almost there, and that'll be our 2021. That'll be like our 4th calendar year of doing this show because we
Yeah.
started in 2020.
Oh, and I did hear there's a February 18th fight night that's going to be in the U.S. that's not going to be at the Apex. I don't know where it's going to
Yay!
be, but maybe that's the first U.S. show. The first show of the year is at the Apex, unfortunately. But then we have the Rio card, then we have the South Korea card, then the Australia card, and then looks like this is going to be the 5th show of the year somewhere in the U.S. That's not the Apex.